that y'all had to go through to come. We were at not Basil, I'm sorry. We were at Buchanan Park. We had a room reserved for that facility, but because of the flooding, they reserved that for emergency management reasons and stuff, so we had to move and vacate. And we found out today we could get it, but it's a little too late, so we made different arrangements. We appreciate that, though, notifying you all and getting that change done here at Calvary. They're always super good. Brother Gifford is here and is open to the community, always using this facility in their church. So we want to thank them for that. Again, I'm Chip Jenkins. I'm the chairman of the board. I'll skip through real quick, but I want to introduce our officers again. Our Vice President is Treasurer Joe Plunk. If he'll stand or wave, there's Joe in the back, right there. Thank you, Joe. Our Secretary is Judy Smith up here, and our Public Relations Officer is currently held by Chastity Phelps. We were having an election to roll her off tonight, though, but she's still in consulting capacity, and then we have still an open board member position for that. And then also we have our guest here is our magistrate, is Rick Williams. If Rick will stand up, he's here to mingle with us and take any questions at the end or wherever you have pertaining to him. Last time he was quite helpful when we were doing the fire department in the county and the changes that were going over there. And I'll just throw it out there real quickly. He was very instrumental on our paving and our entryway into the Springfield, because he had brought that to the attention of the judge executive, and they set aside monies to help pave streets in subdivisions, because they typically do not get done, they get overlooked. So we were one of the very first ones, because within a month or so, they had it paid for us. And so thank you, Rick, and the judge for that. Like I said, we've called to order, and we have the roll call of everything, and we have you here. We have a few proxies, which David Callahan, who is also here. I'm sorry, he's JC Management Consulting is the one that handles the management of the subdivision for us now, and he's up here up front. That being said, I won't take too long. We'll go into our officers' reports, and I'll turn this over to Judy so she can go to the secretary's report, and we'll go on the treasurer's, and we'll go down the line until we get to the end. And if there's any questions or something, if you don't mind holding your questions to the end, and we'll be glad to entertain that and make sure you get responded to properly. And then we'll also have an election for the public relations officer, and we'll pass those ballots out for you at the very end as well. So I'll turn this over. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Julie Smith, and thank y'all for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. Let's see. This is our information from our management company. I think everybody, you want to introduce yourself? Jamie?
Just quick, if you weren't here last year, I'm Jamie Callahan. I own JC Enterprise. I've been in business since 1989. We manage about 28 HOAs. We have them in Bowling Green, Nashville, Murfreesboro, White House, Columbia. We so you don't catch me at the office very often. My assistant there is Valencia. She's there from 8 to 12 every morning, and she's the one who answers a lot of the emails. But if you have any questions, I've been around for a while, so I've seen a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I did see on our Facebook group that somebody asked about how many acres we had. And in total, the HOA is responsible. That means everybody in the HOA subdivision is responsible for mowing approximately 4 acres. And I don't know if y'all know what cost of mowing are for just a small yard, but imagine 4 acres. It is very expensive. Our annual dues are requested this year by May 31st. It is a little bit later than generally that we have. Normally we like to try to do it by the 1st of April, because that's when mowing season starts. But this year our invoices were mailed on April the 6th, and the HOA cost is $100. Anybody here tonight that wants to pay their dues, they are accepting dues payments tonight. However, if you give us just a little bit of time, we are working on accepting online payments. I don't know if we're going to be doing it through our website or Jamie is, but one of the two of us will be definitely. And then that's the address for the HOA if you want to mail a check. So under legal advice, we do have an attorney, Elbow, English, Lucas, Priest and Owsley. If you're not familiar with them, they are one of the oldest law firms in Bowling Green. The HOA changed our name back, and there's a lot of moving parts, but what we did is we changed our name back to the original legal name, because when the original developer set up the HOA, it was as for profit, which is not what we wanted. So we went back and went through some hoops, and under the attorney's advice, the HOA reverted back to the original HOA name as nonprofit. So the name also reflects back to the original filing and that of the covenants and the binding elements. The HOA did keep the same federal employee identification for them. And then Kentucky requires all HOA management companies to have a Kentucky address. So Jamie uses ELPO as well for that, to meet that requirement. And they are currently addressing the HOA's request to start collection process for residents who have not paid their annual dues. That's previous annual dues, of course, not this year. We have paid 2 legal invoices to date. We do have some that are still pending. It was $120 for the legal research on reverting back to our original HOA name. And then we had a $320 for legal advice on a neighborhood nuisance. The HOA received a formal complaint, and so we contacted the attorney to handle that for us. So, for the mowing season, we received, Chastity worked very hard on putting out, making sure that all the information was out there for the mowers to put in their bids for the mowing season. And we were able to review them. 27 came in, which is a lot. But what we did is, one of the best ones that we selected was, it's $225 a week, $250 bi-weekly. But the reason we selected them was because they included mowing, weed eating, edging, blowing off all surfaces, debris pickup, trimming, and landscaping. So due to those items, that company won the bid. Our previous mower was very good and did a wonderful job, but he did charge extra, I think $75, if I remember, higher.
No, that's right.
Is right, for the weed eating and the trimming and the debris pickup, and that was per week. So that was, I think his was right around $200 to $225 plus $75 every week in addition to that. So that's why we chose a new mowing company. So we did do, and actually Chastity and the mowing company did a walkthrough of the HOA owned property, all acres of it. And it was noted there were several areas that required cleanup and maintenance, and we did get a quote from our new mower, and that was, it was in addition to what we paid them weekly, because there was a lot of work that we had to do. There are some, basically there are some trash items that need to be picked up, larger trash items that need to be picked up. Tables and chairs and metal fencing that have just been dumped and that need to be taken and hauled away. There's several dead trees that need to be removed, and that requires, you know, someone actually cutting those down, those trees. And then in some areas, people have been parking on the grass islands, and have damaged and killed the grass. And then some of the areas that have graffiti have to be pressure washed, and debris needs to be removed from our stormwater management systems.
Can I interject something? The trees, our mower doesn't have equipment for the trees, so we'll actually have to get a separate quote for that.
Okay. Now, some of those trees, and correct me if I'm wrong, some of those trees, for safety reasons of people's homes, if they are on the HOA's property, and so the HOA is responsible for cutting down those trees, and if you've tried to get a quote to cut down a tree recently, you will understand how expensive that can be. So this is just some of the pictures that that Chastity and the mower took while they were out, and we had a whole bunch, but I just selected a few.
The smaller trees he will take care of.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
And I don't know if you can see it, you can see it when you blow into it, but there's a bunch of graffiti on that little drainage system right there. And what he's going to do is clean up the big retention area, cutting down the small trees, picking up the trash and debris, and removal of a patio set and other miscellaneous items. is gonna be $636. Just gonna go over basic regulations. There are county regulations regarding lawn height. I think everybody knows that, and everybody does a really good job at keeping their lawns cut and looking good. Parking on the sidewalks and in front yards is prohibited. And the garbage receptacles must be, beside or behind the home except during scheduled pickups. Please call your waste provider for large pickup of air items. So sometimes we see, large, I don't know, pouches and things on the street. And a lot of times, people have already called, but if you have one of the bigger providers in town, they can take up to 2 weeks or longer to pick up. And then there are some cases where, people move out and they leave all their stuff behind, and then there's no trash pickup actually servicing that address. And so then it's on to the owner of the property, if it's a rental, to take care of it. And then please make sure to park safely on the streets. Remember, this is an area with lots of children, and because we have so many cars parked on the street, little kids can run out from behind a car very quickly. So please make sure you're watching carefully and reduce your speed when you're traveling the neighborhood. And then I guess I will turn it over to Joe for the treasurer.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe Plunk. I'm the treasurer of the board for the HOA. And I have 3 slides just to give you a basic rundown of what our financials are. So I want to be clear, we have 2 accounts. We have an account at US Bank, and that was our original account that we've had for 4 or 5 years since the HOA was constituted. And right now, we call it the petty cash fund. Basically, $665. We've kind of worked that account down, and everything now goes to the management company, so they're handling the financials. But I just want you to know that we do have, the US Bank account has $665. But all the income, when you pay dues, that's going to Jamie, to the management company, and he keeps track of the bookkeeping. So last year, for instance, our income was $32,877. $31,310 was from assessments. That's from the 380 some odd properties that did pay their dues. And you can see there at the bottom, 94 out of the 377 properties did not, so they're considered delinquent. So we had the good news is 3/4 of our neighbors paid their dues, are contributing to the neighborhood. In addition to the income, for those who paid late, there was $1,500 worth of late fees and certified mail reimbursement and that sort of thing. So that was the income for last year. The expenditures for last year, so you can kind of see a rundown. $7,000 was just for the mowing and landscaping. And again, like Julie said, generally we're paying weekly for mowing, especially this time of year where you've got to mow just about every week to stay on top of it. Later in the summer, when maybe we can skip a week, or we go through a drought and we can tell our contractor to skip a week, so then there's less of a cost. Now he will charge us, what was it, $250 instead of $225 for that mowing, but that helps us just eliminate some costs by not having to mow every week. And then, of course, Jamie's not doing this for the good of his heart. We do pay him, so part of these fees do go toward Jamie and the management company efforts. We are required by law to keep back a reserve, so we have $3,640 just in reserve. Then you can see the rundown. We've got postage, insurance to cover those public spaces. That was $1,700. Professional fees, that was like the attorney, for instance. The tax, when filing our property tax, our annual federal tax. So there were fees that came out of that. Property taxes to Warren County, that was just $29, but those 4 acres, we do have to pay property taxes on that. Printing, $700, supplies, $150. So that was $24,222 of expenses. If you're doing the math, that's about $8,000 that's kind of hanging out there that's there for use for You know, if we do end up filing some kind of legal action for those folks who haven't paid their dues, there's a fee to that. That's not free, so that $8,000 is there for when we need it for other expenses. And then the last slide I have is just to show you some of our expenses for this calendar year. So we have the website. Cassie does a fantastic job she built that website. There's a lot of great information on there. And we had to pay, of course, for that domain. And this is for a 3-year contract that was $500, but that covers us for 3 years for that fee. And then the signs that you see that were out here in the neighborhood just advertising our meeting, that's $132. Now, one savings that we did reap was we closed our P.O. box. So for any of you who have a P.O. box, you know that's not cheap. It keeps going up every year, and it was $192 last year when we paid, but we closed that P.O. box. All of our mailings now either go to Jamie or to Elpo. And that's the last slide for finance. We'll take questions at the end. New business?
Chip, is that you?
Well,
yeah, can we do it, or-
yeah, please, you do excellent job, you do fine,
I
thank
just
you.
didn't know, sorry. Okay, I'll just stand. Okay, look at this guy. Sorry. All right, so the HOA, we're gonna install a new metal sign that's 18 by 28 near the front entrance of Three Springs Road. It looks very similar to the one in the picture, and that is just to make sure everyone who buys knows that we have an HOA. And then the cost of that sign was $76.27, and that was from Fast Signs. $53 was that cost, and then the bolts to mount it were $23. We are also going to be replacing the lights at the front entrance of Three Springs Road. One of the side mounted lights blew off due to the wind, and they were a little bit small, so we're gonna try and get some larger, more well-lit lights for the front. We also do have to replace the solar floodlight that was at the front entrance because it's been stolen a couple of times. So, we haven't found the ones we like yet that would give enough light and also look nice. So that's why the costs are pending.
It's also gonna be mounted.
Oh, and it's gonna be mounted, so we'll have to get that done. Chip is unfortunately out of commission at the moment for that.
I'll be up soon.
3 to 6 months.
All right, so the social stuff, which is of course what I normally do. One of the things we get a lot of complaints on, and frankly, they're not always people from our neighborhood, they're people passing through too, so there's some limitations there. Just be mindful of the posted speed limits and stop signs, especially on those straightaways, people do tend to roll through those, and I've been stopped at one of the stop signs and had a kid run out in front of me, so, just know, just be aware. Any speeding, theft, or vandalism concerns, please report those to Warren County Sheriff's Office first, because we are limited in what we can do. However, I am currently working on a new complaint form that you'll be able to submit nuisance complaints, and then we can track and trend where those are happening, how often they're happening, and the locations. But, I built the form, but there's some behind the scenes stuff from the website I've got to teach myself how to do. The spring yard sale is Saturday, May 3rd, and then, of course, whenever everyone decides on the fall yard sale, we'll post that. Then the HOA, we will continue inviting food trucks to our neighborhood if you're interested. We'll always announce those on social media, and then we have a new event calendar on the website. And then you can always email food truck recommendations or requests to springfieldbg@gmail.com. Additionally, on the next slide, there is now a new form on the website. This is a request form to submit an event to our website event calendar. And so what this does is you'll fill this out with all the details. These are all the details that the little calendar asks for when you create an event. And then, the required parts, and then whatever non-required parts are relevant. Once you submit that, we should get an email with all those details in order to build your event for you. As far as the social media groups, especially the Facebook, the board has
unanimously voted to keep post approvals on, and I'll tell you why. One of the big reasons that I actually don't talk about, because it kind of increases their traffic, is that we've been hit very hard by scammers. I've had accounts that have had they're more than a year old, they have 30 or more friends that are actually fake accounts. Sometimes they hack our neighbors' accounts and then invite new accounts to our neighborhood. So, I've had to be really diligent about staying on top of that. And that's one reason why post approvals are on. Also, of course, negative comments, or just, I hate to say it, but general drama. We have to be careful of that because it does reflect negatively on our neighborhood and it creates increased liability. And so, companies do not want to insure people or insure businesses that create increased liability. And we have been turned down for insurance before, and of course, like that could actually go away if we allowed it to escalate again. One of the big things we ask is don't post other people's addresses, and then don't post law enforcement or EMS incidents on social media unless it is like a confirmed danger. And the reason we say that is historically before, when we did allow that, it usually turned out to be a self-harm situation or a severe medical incident. And it really, when we start asking those questions, it really creates more trauma to the people that are going through that. So that's why we don't allow that. And then, of course, any pictures or videos of children that are not yours, we do not allow that. We want to protect our children. Other than that, in general, we always just ask, please be courteous and respectful to your neighbors. And then, of course, the board is seeking nominations for the public relations officer. My role, I've been on this position long enough. Also, I've got things going on in my life. I just cannot support the needs of the neighborhood anymore. Sorry, I did not realize I was gonna get emotional. Sorry. It's been a privilege to serve the board in this way and help get the HOA started. But I'm really glad to be able to hand it over to someone who's gonna come in with a fresh take and a fresh set of eyes, and then I'll be there to support that person in a advisory capacity and a technical capacity as well. So whenever I'm no longer needed, then I'll fully transition off the board. I'm totally gonna get emotional. Honestly, I can't see it. I'll just go.
Oh,
Okay.
no, back
Well,
up on the outside.
all right. Well, thank you.
So I appreciate that, Shannon.
Thanks.
You've been great. Our board members have been really, better like the word, I guess. They just love the community, they love each other, and they just want to do their best. And they've been serving a long time, so we want to try to get more of a routine moving forward about electing new officers. And so it's the first step. We want to do like a third and a third and a third. You want to keep somebody that's on, that knows what's going on, and you keep somebody in the middle, and you keep somebody new. So that being said, I am going to open up the floor for, I don't think there's any other old business that we may have left off, and I hope not. I will open the floor for new business. And this new business, starting off with that, will be for nominations for her position for the, like I said, the public relations officer. So I'm opening the floor up now for any motion for somebody like that. Go ahead, I'll bring it up to you, Jason.
I'm gonna nominate Brandy Lassiter, who has expressed interest in being the public relations officer.
Okay, Brandy, you want to raise your hand again? Yeah, that is Brandy.
Hi, everybody. Second.
Second there, okay. We will have a vote on that, so she is outstanding on that part. Is there any other from the floor that maybe would want a nomination?
It pays a whole lot.
Well, if not, then is there a motion that nomination cease? Have a motion?
I motion, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. You said
I motion
made.
that it cease if no
Yeah.
one else
Second?
is interested.
Yeah, second from you, okay. Now we'll go ahead and pass out the ballots then.
I don't think you really need to, yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Just to raise the hand, if you, I would say,
well, I just want to make sure on the and we have the ballot where you can write them in, but if you think we're good, yeah.
Well, I mean, if nobody else is nominated, it's a,
All right,
Yeah.
all in favor, then we just accept with it, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries, so we have a new officer, thank you for that. Thank you. Sometimes my Robert Rules Board gets kind of mixed up a little bit, so I want to do it properly, but I appreciate that. Now, that being said, I don't think there's any other new business except for any discussions from the floor, and we will entertain that. We will try to hear as much as we can tonight, if there's great concern. We would like to be out here by 7 o'clock for the church's sake, because they want to kind of close out and go home. But we're here open right now to take any questions for us as a board member, anything that may be on your mind, and toward Rick Williams. So anyway, as a magistrate, so, yes, please.
Since we have the magistrate here.
Yes.
People that are playing music to the point where you can hear it inside your house from across, probably 4 or 5 houses around. You say something to them, they don't care. I checked the website for Warren County for the noise ordinance. I thought I read one in there, but I called the sheriff's office, and they said basically there isn't one out in county. So I'm curious, what's our resolution for that? Do we, with maybe the magistrate, do we go after disturbing the peace, or what can we do with that? Because it's to the point where it happens at 6 in the morning, it starts, and it will happen till 2 or 3 in the morning.
Rick, I mean, I know we can, because if you don't call, I know Brett Hightower personally, so I can talk to Brett again in his department.
Yes.
But if you've already spoken, we can still see again, inquire.
Well, I called
about-
the non-emergency number,
Okay.
and talked to one of the deputies,
Okay.
so.
But I'll talk to the sheriff himself and see, hey, is there anything on that end again to make sure? Rick, would you something maybe on that end?
Well, I mean, that's the right approach to take. I mean, if something is becoming a nuisance, you can approach it from that point. But a noise ordinance is almost impossible to enforce. So it's more looking at it from a nuisance standpoint. And if you've got somebody that's
Disturbing the peace.
continuing to do it and doing it on purpose, you can probably get something done. And that's through the sheriff's department.
Well, as a related item, does a barking dog fall into that same category?
So that being said, we can pursue that avenue for sure. And then the only other step or resolution we can take, and at this time, this level of what we do with JC and the management company that we're using, they just do administrative. There is another layer that costs money, of course, but it's an enforcement of things that we want done as a neighborhood, like noise nuisance or something like that. Of course, we would have to describe or outline what that would be.
I get video.
Yeah,
audio.
yeah, but I'm just saying, but we as a subdivision can say, look, there are certain things that we will allow, not allow, and that's one of them, if we all agree upon it. And then we can take a different tactic on that part, and then we can take legal action and say, look, if the sheriff's department, I mean, if it continues on and we can't get any resolution that way, we'll have to take it legally. And then try to send out a letter and say, look, HOA says we
Well, there's a
ratify
nuisance
this.
clause in the covenant.
Yes, but we can, yeah,
Is that,
yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
we're dealing with one with the burning issue.
Yeah, we got one right now with burning issue. It's been going on, and they called.
I think it may be a little more complex than that, because it's rentals.
Yes.
These are houses that are rentals.
And that can be an issue for sure, because the property owner's somewhere else. They don't have that issue, I get it. But like you said, we have this issue with the burning. It's been going on, but we've notified, and the homeowner hasn't been really gracious, but they've talked to the fire department, they've called EPA, they've sent things out and done this. Now, well, surely the goodness EPA, they get on you for doing anything. But they seem to be not wanting to get too hands-on with it. I said, well, it's an issue. You can see it, you can smell it, but what can we go beyond that? So we've had to take a little legal action to kind of, to do something, and we don't want to do that to your neighbor. But if they don't comply, I mean, we all have to live with each other, and there's certain limits that we can only abide by, and that's one of them. And if you're burning stuff and it smells and stinks, we don't do it. I mean, we're not that far out in the rural area. Yes, we're in the county, but we're kind of quasi, aren't we? We're right in the city, but we're right on that border. And it's kind of funny how we look at things, and city ordinances has different things altogether for their subdivision versus out in the county. And unfortunately, I wish we were all uniform in that regard, but we are not, so we kind of have to kind of go with that. But we can check in on that, and we'll make a note on that too, because we haven't recorded, but we'll check with that, and I can talk to him and see. Make sure I get your information before you leave tonight, seriously, because we want to follow up where we can and answer those things and deal with it as best we can up front, so.
And the reason that I brought up the barking dog is that barking dog is not in the Springfield. It's in an immediate new neighborhood that backs right up to us. And that's why I wanted to know what the county regulations are, because I've already approached them, their HOA from the standpoint of it, and they're kind of washing their hands of it.
Yeah.
But
I get that
because
feeling,
it's in their backyard,
Yeah.
it bothers us more than it does them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But I think we can approach that if we take it up a notch, but that's something that we as a subdivision and each property owner can take it up and kind of advance on that. But we can talk about that and try to get some of that direction later, but, someone else, yes ma'am.
Have you ever had an estimate on cleaning the, pond, fountain, roundabout?
No ma'am, I mean, we're gonna trim up some more trees in the middle.
Because
I know
maybe you
it's
could
got.
take a love offering or something,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
people who are like, here, I'll give you money to have that, you know, if you get an estimate and, I mean, I'd be willing to give you some money to help
Well,
get that cleaned
I
up.
mean, if everybody pays their dues, to be honest with you, we have monies, we have goals.
Yeah.
And about putting the parking things, and that is the thing we can address and take care of. Like I said, it has cattails in it. And some people find that attractive, some don't. We got a few trees because it didn't used to have any trees in
They
it.
used to have nothing.
And now we have y'all probably don't know, we have a sinkhole in it now. It is opened up, I fell in it the other day.
Oh,
Not that I didn't
Lord.
do anything to my arm, but it's still after the fact, but it is opened up, so that's why it's not really retaining any water. You would have thought with all this flooding, we would have got a plethora coming up, because it's the rising water that's getting us right now, but it is fell in. I don't
I just
know,
didn't
it's not
know.
real deep, but again, it's 4 or 5 feet, so.
I just didn't know if you'd ever had it quoted just to see how much it costs
No,
to have it.
Well, the county said that they would, do a liner if we wanted to like put back this water, and if we buy the liner, they would install it, but down the road, that comes back to us, but that depends on if everybody wants water, because we have talked about fountains before, and they do look great, they have to be maintained, I mean, I don't get, I get it, I mean, I would love to have one if we can maintain it properly, but again, that's another cost.
He says no because of drowning kids.
Well, but that is another issue. If they get into the water, do we fence it? It is an insurance legality, because we finally are able to afford, before we first started picking up the HOA, we didn't have insurance because it didn't think, well, we didn't have the money to do it. I praise the Lord now, we do have, because we're growing and getting more connected with one another, so we have insurance to cover certain things as far as injuries and stuff on the 4 acres that we have. But that will be a different thing when you put, whatever, but now cleaning it up could be something entirely different too. We could do some dozer work, it wouldn't take much, but
I
the
just
going
didn't know
rate's
if you'd
down.
ever had a quote on it.
No, ma'am, we just try to keep it clean and keep it more around the periphery, but that's about
And
it.
I'm grateful for what you guys do. I think-
Well,
Yeah.
it's not just us, it's you guys, you permit us, we're all in this together, I promise you, we're not trying to build walls around each other, we're just trying to build bridges. We're just trying to work together because we've got to, and I value all of us on the board value you as members of the community, we want your feedback, and we want your help. That's why we want people to come when we have another election next year to step up and take an office, because we need your input. Yes.
I was gonna ask you, not you personally, but one of the slides talked about parking and parking on sidewalks and on the space between the grass between sidewalks, et cetera. Part of what I observe at least is that happens because the streets are narrow enough that when they park on both sides of the street, it gets really narrow, and so they start trying to get off the street. Would there be the possibility of setting it up to where parking's only on one side, so we maintain 2 lanes on the other?
That is doable, and it takes some work. We can run it through planning and zoning. I'm transportation with Moore County Schools. We have done that before for school bus entryways, because some of these subdivisions are difficult. Of course, we've changed that over the years, but we have done it in a subdivision where we put all the parking on one side opposite of the fire hydrants, because Emergency management needs to get to those things, and they need a clear pathway, and the same thing with buses, you need to be able to shoot through there to see. We can do that, it takes a couple of ordinances and a couple of readings, we have to go before P and Z, because the county's part of the city planning board, but we can present that to them and say, look, we want to put a petition in, we have enough people in our subdivision that wants that to happen, we want a reading. And so they'll go in and do it, and then they'll post signs, Joe can probably say he knows, because things like, that they'll put signs on there that parking on one side, and then we'll try to get the sheriff's department to make sure that everyone parks on one side. Now, somebody will get mad when they're parking on my side, I get it, but we really have to think about the safety, and it might have to be opposite the fire hydrants, because you really want them open for everybody. So we can make that happen, but it takes like 2 readings, the P and Z, we have to present it from us, and then we have to go through a couple readings, and may even have to get an attorney to represent us on that part, but I'm not 100%, it's been a while since I've done it.
Last thing I heard from Ben Peterson of Planning and Zoning, we first have to do the petition and get signatures for a petition, and I forgot how many signatures we would need, but, that's what I last heard about that, and then we had to shift our focus to the other legal stuff.
So that's something, before we leave tonight, you get a petition, we don't have to call a special, we're already here for that, I would think, I don't know, I mean, we got people here that are concerned, if you want, we can fill out a form and make something and sign it, and we can take it to P and Z, to Mr. Peterson, and get that to them, so.
When you do a petition like that, does that have to be signed by the homeowner or renter?
Well, homeowners really, property owners, so we would have to go out and seek,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
it's property owners, that's the rub.
That's gonna be the hard spot.
Yeah, but I don't know if it takes I don't know what percentage, Joe, I mean, we got enough here, I don't know if P and Z says you have to have this amount of numbers, but if you have enough concern, and it's enough that the subdivision wants it, then we can make that move and make that change, and that can happen.
But isn't it in the restrictions that no parking on the street? How can
Yes, ma'am, and it's in there, and I've talked to Brett Hightower about that, just like the dog parking thing probably. It's hard to enforce. We have talked to them about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and code enforcement wouldn't either.
And we've talked to code enforcement too, because they're helpful, but it's a law.
It is in the covenant.
Yeah.
It's just
I'm sorry, let me get you, I'll get back to you, I'm
It's
sorry.
overnight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Overnight.
Looking at Google, you see various houses that have businesses running in them, and most of them are all inside a garage. You've got one in particular that's running a large truck repair company, and they've got 6 to 7 trucks, white vans, parked in the streets and in front of people's houses.
Yeah.
That was my next question, how many can be parked in their driveway and then taking up spaces along the whole street? That, like, there are upwards of 8 to 10 cars for this one.
And we've been made aware of that, and we have followed up, and Joe can answer that, but I'll let him explain that a little bit better, so he was directly hands-on with that.
So it is a common concern that particular property, the way it was explained to us by Ben Peterson at Planning and Zoning is that, I'm gonna use the example of a food truck. If you own a food truck, you can park your food truck in your driveway, but you can't operate the food truck. You know, we can't have people come into your house to buy food, but you can park the food truck there. The issue with the mobile truck repair is those are work vehicles. They're not doing the repairs on their property that we know of. We're not seeing it, we're not seeing that. They're using those trucks and they're going out to do mobile repairs, but they can have an unlimited number of vehicles. There's no ordinance that says you can only own 3 vehicles, or you can only own 5 vehicles, or you can't park in front of your neighbor's house.
A company could have, a trucking company could have 20 semis and they could just run them up and down the street. That's what you're telling me.
Unfortunately, there is no restriction to
They're not
that.
supposed to park on the street.
Well, you're not supposed to park in the street. We would have to have signage, so that has been addressed, and that is something that we will work on, and that is the way to address the situation. So if we say no parking in the street, now they have to find, either they have to fit them all on their driveway, or they have to have them somewhere else. That's one way around it. But
Most businesses do.
it is debatable about the parking in the street, because some people are gonna really like that, and some people are gonna really hate that.
Yeah, and I agree with that, because you know what's gonna happen, somebody's gonna pull back in half your driveway, and you ain't gonna be able to get out of your drive.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's-
so
that's
that's why,
one side.
that's why it's like, be careful what you ask for if you don't want any parking
Yeah,
on the street,
yeah, there is,
because.
I would hate for somebody to take it all on one side of our street and then pull up and half our driveway and park and leave, and then you can't get out your own driveway.
Well, just so you know, so we'll start the petition process. If we get enough people that are interested, majority wins, that's what we'll go. But that's the issue, that's how we handle the mobile truck repairs.
But it's a process, and we're getting there because, like you said, we've really been in our stride trying to get this community going back on the HOA, back on the pathway. And there's a way we can do it, but we have to ramp it up with the ordinances we have from you guys and say, look, we got somebody that here's managing it. You're gonna get a letter, and then we're gonna do legal, because you are kind of pressing, you're right on that line. Operation, you know, that's an operation hub for that guy, obviously. It is. And it's aggravating when you live right next to him. I don't live next to him, but I would be upset if I was next to him seeing that going on.
Is that a rental property?
Yes, I believe
I
it is.
think so. I'm
Yes.
not,
Have we addressed it with the owner of the rental?
Yes, yes.
They don't give it here.
No, when we can, and we can address it later on as we work our management thing, to look, if we ramp this up with our costs to pay, because you have to understand us as a board, we're just like you, we're working stiffs. So if we ramp it up to another level, they did, right now, Jamie does the bookkeeping and finance, keeps things with HOA. If we ramp it up a notch, we had to pay more, he'll start writing the letters on our behalf, and look, you're doing something else, and we're gonna get legal on actions on you, with what we can take legally and get this to stop with this. And that goes to the property owner, you're right, because he's in a nice subdivision probably with no cars parking. I shouldn't say I'm not trying to be ugly, but he's not feeling the brunt of that in our neighborhood.
I'm just thinking he may not know about it because of a lot of the rental properties that people leave.
Very happy.
There's a heck of a lot of
Yes,
great
sir.
dumpsters parked in the driveway, ripping out things and reconditioning the house for the next rental or
Yeah.
possible sale.
Yeah, and you're right, we have a person that one time lived in California. And she ended up with that, she could have inherited that, but she was telling me, why don't you just get people to mow your grass for free? No, I've been doing that, I'm getting old, I can't do it for free, I'm not going to do it for free. You're in the subdivision, you live in California, but it's your property. And her intentions are well, but like, ma'am, you're in California, that don't work that way.
I love
didn't mean
it.
that
I love
ugly.
it.
I'm just saying she's not here, so.
I love it.
And you have your hand, you talk.
That was exactly my reaction.
Okay, I'm sorry, you were kind enough to raise your hand and I didn't, there's a lady behind you, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to let you know, I'm not for just, saying one side of the, road, that's the car on. I would take people to be parked in my side of the road all the time, seeing some nasty cars right there. Everybody's stuff is on my side, that I pay for that sidewalk in front of my house. I have to mow that, strip right there between the sidewalk and the street. And anybody that gets too close to your mailbox, they will not deliver your mail.
That's true.
They will not get out and deliver that mail, just let you know, that's that.
Yeah.
But that, and point taken, and that's something that we can ramp up on now that we're adequately financed. Before, we just couldn't do it. But now we can kind of look at those things to make a difference for everybody in the neighborhood. I'm sorry, this in my.
Just future down the road, as everyone pays and this builds more and more. I read last year, we're talking about building a park. Is that
Well-
something we could do, would cut down mowing costs because we would take an acre away from mowing
Yes.
if we got some kind of
And
park?
then hopefully you got to see it. Did you see it on the slide? It's in the center. Let me back it up here. I'm
My
sorry.
eyes, I
Yeah.
probably did.
No, that's all right. Let me back it up real quick. Oh, did I go too far? Yeah, you did. Well, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's coming, it's coming. And this is it right here, but you'll see it. Come on. There it is. It's right here. There's where the trash, it's nice, it's flat. Sorry. I mean, there's a roundabout here, there's our front entrance. There's a drainage by the interstate, and there's these little bitty areas here. But right there, and that's our easement on both sides. Perfect for a park. We can build a pavilion. We're not here to just collect money to.
No, I know that.
No, I'm not, I'm just saying, but you're right.
I'm just saying we cut
But
down our mowing
that-
costs if we.
Amen, because that's
there.
that's a goal. We can put picnic tables and that in there, and that would be nice, and a walkway in for our children, whatever. So that's something that we are, future, we would like for us to move forward and put that money toward and do that. And that would help tremendously. I'd rather spend it on that than mowing.
They wanted to know where that, there are two egresses in, one on, Red Coffee and Blue Sage.
Yeah, right
I
here.
believe.
Mhm.
Yeah, so there's 15-foot egresses, between two houses. And you can tell because those two houses are set a little bit further apart than others. And so, that would kind of be the walkway in. We would have to figure out about parking probably, but, I don't know how we
A
would.
lot of it
address
be
that
walking
yet.
distance, but it's there, so that's something that we can do. Yes, ma'am.
My question about that, and about the easement where they're at, what if somebody's put a fence up there? You know, and I know they're not supposed to, you're not supposed to.
But they haven't, there has been fences like over here, on this side, there's a vinyl fence, nice. Now, we really don't want an egress, we could put one, but that's where that ditch is, there's a creek that goes down.
Yeah.
So this is the better side that we can actually pave, put pavers in, we can make it, and the kind neighbors that live on both sides, they keep it, somebody's keeping it mowed, God
Okay.
bless them. But it's not fenced, they have fences, but it's like an alley, but you can go through it. And that's the way we can prepare a walkway of some sort out of pavement, whatever we decide to do.
Yeah.
But that'll give us a nice access. I'm telling you, it's nice. It's
Yeah.
nice back, and it's safe.
I
You can
live
take your
on
children back there. I ain't saying a dog park. I'm just throwing stuff out, 'cause we have a dog park, but I'm just saying, you could take an animal back there. You could.
And the reason I ask that is that that's my backyard, and I don't have a problem with, you know, a park for the kids. I love, there's kids out there all the time, we love it. It's just the different mowers that we have, they pick different ways to get into it, and that's into the
Right.
common area. So that was my question, where is that easement?
And it would have to be this one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can, I don't know if I can make this any, bigger. Oh, yeah, sorry. Oh,
It
there
may
it
not
is.
blow up. But,
Let me get
but
it.
this is the flattest and easiest, and it
Okay.
comes in here. It
So
has to be
is
on
it
that.
off of Red
Yeah, because
Coffee?
the other side is retainage ditch. You can't really appreciate it till you, but you cannot go through there
Well,
safely.
we appreciated during the,
Yeah.
rains.
Yeah.
Because, we could see it coming in, but it never raced.
Thank
I mean,
goodness.
it's good, and that's a beautiful area back there.
Yeah, it's as flat as you
my
want.
only concern is speed.
And you can, there's room, and we can link in with the county. When I was mayor of Woodburn, we linked in and bought equipment through the county. The judge executive is good about that. He lets it have it at their cost. So whatever we decide it needs to look like and spend, we can do that. And you can build a 30 by 30 pavilion with cookout grills. You know, people, you don't have to be fancy, but it's a place that you can take your family and cook out and stuff. That is a goal of ours, and we're getting there. And we're just keeping the dream alive, trying to push it out. But we have not able to do that over the years because of certain things holding us back, so.
But, if you do want to look at this more closely, this is actually on publicly available Google Drive, and that's linked on the main front page of our website. If you want me to show you that really quick, I'd be happy to. Let me just say, I'll just go there. So right here are the HOA documents. If you click on that button, it'll take you to all available public files. The non-public files have, like people's identifiable information and things like that, so that's why they are not public. But it was needed. Right.
Yeah, I'm telling you, since we started this at inception for us, we try to keep this transparent, and I promise you, you won't see very many HOAs with a website like ours trying to throw the information out there. We don't wanna hide anything, we can't, we don't want to, but it's on there for your price, for you to look at, so you'll know what's going on in our community. We're just doing the best we can.
So, first I want to say that all of us, you know, we're all together, but it is frustrating for anybody that says something you might approve. We're gonna walk away with no answers, and it's not the board's fault. A lot of it comes from the absent homeowners, you know, in our neighborhood, where we could all probably have a problem that we could complain about. So is there a way for the homeowners who are disassociated, you know, who just turn around and rent, just like a rotating door, could they be charged more or held somehow accountable to say, hey, since you're not hands-on, you know, the responsibility for this home, I don't know, because I live next to somebody who doesn't speak any English, and their fence, you know, is halfway fell on the property, and, you know, we all have these little things that would be dropped about, the dogs, the music, the cars, but there's nobody without paying you more money, right?
And we,
I mean, it's gonna, I mean, I've driven through your subdivision, it's gonna take basically initial massive mailing to get everybody to try to start complying.
When they rent, they don't care.
But that's okay, I mean, because the owner will be charged the fines. I mean, we usually have a fine schedule that, you know, you get a notice, you got, you know, 15 days, 30 days to bring it into compliance. If you don't, you're gonna be fined $50.
So
And
how
if
much
you-
does that cost when you do that? Because we're paying you, what,
Yeah.
$7,000 a year for
Yeah,
just a bank
I
account?
think it's $3 a unit a month, so it usually double, I do $6 is usually my base for doing that.
Like per letter or?
No, that's
Or-
see, if we
Per
take it
house,
up a
yeah.
notch for him to do the
Yeah.
enforcement that we want done, it's $6 per homeowner. And that's what he gets charged.
And per month.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah.
Right now he's at 3 because he's just doing the legal and administrative and, you know, the filing and stuff with the state. He handles all that for us. But that's where we're hoping to get to the next level.
Can I also suggest, so Warren County has a code enforcement, and we've gone through code enforcement to help with some things. In other words, we don't have enforcement power right now. We can't go and write fines or arrest people, you know, we can't do that. We're not gonna ever get to that point. But code enforcement, they do, if you have tall grass, you can tell us about it, but code enforcement can actually deal with that and write a fine. So don't hesitate to use Warren County's code enforcement, because they've been very helpful to us on other issues.
But that's just grass, that's not
It
dogs.
could be other things.
But
But I
you're
think
right,
the parking
there is more
too,
to
yeah,
it.
the parking, I mean, just call the police department, you know, on the parking issue, if they're blocking your driveway, blocking your mailbox, if you see them parked in front of a thing, I mean, I know, you know, they'll come out usually and, you know, either ticket them or something. I mean, honestly, the parking issue on the street is major everywhere. Developers or builders don't build garages big enough to house your 2 vehicles usually. People fill up their garages with stuff and can't get a car in there at all. But the parking on the street eventually, and it comes down to a safety issue, really. And that's where the HOA can really put their foot down from a safety standpoint, that you can't park on the street because of kids and that kind of thing, you know. Plus, you ask your, you know, again, police department, fire department, anybody that's emergency vehicles. I mean, I've asked before, not up here, but down in Murfreesboro, can the police department or just even the fire department take a truck down through there one time at night and you're having to do this kind of thing? You know, I wish they would just put their lights on one night, come through and maybe ticket everybody or a warning or something like that. So there's a lot of things that we would like to try, but I've tried the police department and, you know, basically if they're not blocking a, you know, fire hydrant, mailbox, driveway, you know, that's an issue. And whoever spoke about parking on their side, I'm not a big fan of that either, because honestly, when you're backing out of your driveway, you gotta worry about the car across the street from you, you're not gonna back into them. I mean, so again, that's a safety issue, you know, for a lot of things, but if you can, you park in your driveway the best you can. But it's an issue everywhere. It's a public street, so we have some problems enforcing issues on public street. If it's in the covenants restrictions for parking overnight, you know, that we can try to address that the best we can.
Any other questions?
Are they gonna do any more road repair?
That's a Rick Williams.
There'll be additional repairs done over the years as we go. One thing that we have to remember is that in the county, they always focused on roads, and they didn't think about streets. So we've got neighborhoods like Springfield, and there are many, many others that haven't been touched in 30, 40 years. So it's gonna take a while to get caught up. So we are looking at additional repairs and putting more money toward the maintenance of the streets inside of developments. And you'll see more of that as the years go by.
Last year they patched
That's a good section in front of our house, when you get down this other end of Angelica Street, it's pretty rough down there.
But you'll see more and more of it as the years go by, but it's not anything that we can just snap our fingers and turn around on a dime.
Well, we can report these things to Rick, put on I call it a list. Maybe it's not a wish list, but it kinda is. It's a priority list, isn't it? Like, if you see it, I mean, if we have those issues, we put it on a list. As the monies or the funding or the time come, we can kind of tackle that.
So we did the math, and Rick, you'll appreciate this. In the Springfield subdivision, there's 4 miles of streets in the Springfield subdivision. And at $100,000 or more a mile to resurface, you're looking at $500,000 just to repave every street in the subdivision. So that's why Rick is saying, you know, there's 50 other subdivisions in Warren County. It just takes time, and we are thankful for the mile or so that we got last year with Springfield Boulevard and a roundabout, the repair on Angelica, that where the old subdivision started and the new began. So like Rick said, it's gonna take time to get to that point.
And the judge executive just allotted money for that out of the court. I mean, I don't know how much it is of that pot, but we're not the only subdivision, so it gets moved around, to meet needs.
Yeah, this is the first time that we've ever had any money for subdivisions. It's always been for county roads.
So y'all think, y'all got to start, 7 o'clock, get it, yep.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna cut anybody short, but yes to the church.
One more thing.
Oh.
Just to let you know, when they're allocating money, we was the cut through for the water. From down here on Elrod Road and up here on Three Springs Road. Our subdivision became the total cut through. So, if they're allocating money, that's just a thought, food for thought. That if we've gotta be the cut through every time this happens, and it's happened twice already, then
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because when we had the turnaround, y'all probably noticed it on our front entrance. Somebody saw the stop sign that they couldn't go across Three Springs there, and they turned around in our entrance, and they rutted it out, and I didn't realize, but they had spun out, and there's mud all over our front entrance sign. They got stuck in the rut. Instead of going around and looping around, you could see it, it's plain, they backed into it and made 2 big ruts, and they spun out. Well, you can't catch them, I'll have to clean them, but we'll get it fixed, but that's the kind of stuff that goes on, but it's just part of it, but again, just things like that. Go ahead.
We have kids on our street in the mailboxes. At one time, mail was taken out of the mailboxes and scattered up and down the street. They put toys and food in the mailboxes and they're playing. What can we do? Call us on this.
Yeah, that's the federal, that's something you call the sheriff's policy. We got kids in federal property, they ought to be able to step in. You just gotta document it and tell them, we think it's these right over here, whatever, and let them go and talk to
I
them.
know which one it is.
Yeah, but that's something the sheriff Hightower and his department would have to handle. Let me take one more, and I'm sorry, we'll need to wrap it up.
On Angelica Street, more closer to your house, what is in that fenced-in area? It's black, and I see they've replaced a few boards. Is that a retention pond in there?
I'm not sure.
It's almost directly across from the Cut Street.
It's right, it is. It's a retention.
Oh, okay.
Is it?
I'm sorry, I'll just be honest with you, I think I'm kind of oblivious to
Where's it at?
that. Well, okay, I'm on the wrong.
It's directly like where Daisy is.
Across from Daisy.
Yes,
Yeah.
so right here, yeah, this is, are you talking about this area?
Yeah, it's
fence around
right
there.
next to the guy that's got the big black truck.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that is like, oh, okay, I would pull it up if you want.
it's a retention pond.
That's what it's being
used as.
Oh, yeah. That fence honestly has always been like 6 foot ever since I lived here, so I'm really short and I've never been able to see inside of it.
The grass is probably as tall.
They didn't have it when, because I lived here early on, and they didn't have anything there for a while, and then I guess because they.
When they built that house next to it is when they put.
Yeah, they
is
put
when they
fence.
put
Is it a wooden fence around it?
Yeah.
I think I have seen that, cause it is kinda like,
And then
and it's quite aged, the fence is, yes.
Yes.
I got you.
And the trees pop over it, you know.
Yes, yes, it's a retention.
We'll have to talk to him about all that, and see, I don't know if the retention's really a county's side or actually it belongs to us, and I guess, well, it doesn't
Well,
though.
it's their property, I mean, they just have bigger lots, those two people, looks like to me.
It's not county. But again, if there's not any further questions from the floor, I appreciate everyone and your patience, and y'all are doing a great job. We can move forward on some of these other issues, get that information from you, and we'll take another step. Yeah, and if there's any volunteers in the group tonight who would like to participate in our meetings when we get together, we would love to have you. Please see Judah or myself or whatever, Joe, and talk to us and get your information. I got you. Okay, I got you. Thank you all. Have a good evening. Appreciate you very much.
Always fun sometimes.
Yeah, it is.